Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. I'm gonna give my Mike McCarthy kind of thing here. So I get the whole like this isn't a big change from going from Mike Tomlin to Mike McCarthy. And while you're right in terms of age and resume, like one Super Bowl, they both have a ton of winning seasons, but not tons of playoff success. You're right about age and resume, but in terms of what they do as a football coach, vastly different. Mike Tomlin does not call plays on either side of the football. Mike McCarthy does. He's the offensive play caller. He also has a track record of developing quarterbacks. He's worked with Joe Montana, Rich Gannon, Brett Favre. He developed Aaron Rodgers was his real project that he developed. He took him into quarterback camp. He fixed his mechanics. He won a Super Bowl with him. That's his pride and joy. And then Dak Prescott had some really nice years with him. You can't deny he's got the QB whisperer gene. But if this was like Shieldhouse from like the McVay tree, if we ended up hiring him as our head coach, like he's like in that whiz kid like LaFleur, Shanahan, Ben Johnson type of thing. But like over here in the other corner of like old is like an older group of offensive coaches, and that's Andy Reid, Sean Payton, uh, I mean Doug Peterson, John, Gruden, like Mike McCarthy's in that era of play calling coaches, and two of those coaches, one of them, I mean, Reed's gone Super Bowl after Super Bowl, and then Sean Payton had a lot of success this year. Like, I don't think, I mean, Mike McCarthy is one of these guys, and um, here's okay, and then let me keep going a little bit. So I don't think the guy who got this job is all that important. What I do think is important is what direction are we taking the team? You could have fucking hired me here, but if we're trying to win 10 games this year, we missed the point. Like we have to, it's about our direction. We should be trying to be bad. The last Steelers pick inside the top 10 that wasn't like natural, we didn't trade up for like the Devin Bush trade. 2000, Plaxico Burress was our last top 10 pick. We got him at 8. Okay. 2000, Plaxico Burress,
Great pick.
25 years ago. Never made a Pro Bowl, though, so not our best work. Anyway, and then in Big Ben in 2004 was the 11th pick. So right outside of the range I said, but those were our last two like top 10 picks. So when we won a Super Bowl in the 70s, these were our top picks. It went Joe Green, Mean Joe Green, Terry Bradshaw, Franco Harris, and Lynn Swan. That is, in 6 years, we drafted 4 Hall of Famers. Now, when we had our other run of 2005 and 2009 Super Bowls, from 2001 to 2007, we drafted Big Ben and Troy Polamalu, Hall of Famers, and then we drafted 3 Pro Bowls: Casey Hampton, um, Lawrence Timmons, and Heath Miller. So you're talking about like building through the draft. You're getting good picks and you're hitting on these good picks. Like this is not a rocket science. You do have to build through the draft. And when you get the 21st to the 18th pick every year, it's really hard to construct an elite roster because we're just not getting Hall of Fame talent like we had on prior teams. So all in all, I just like to say like we have to build through the draft. We have to do what we got to do and sell some of our assets, some of our good players to get draft capital. And then we have to be bad. If we go 9-8 next year and we just miss the point. And unless Will Howard is like a stud and he wills us to victory and Will Howard's like the next thing, then the only like us being 9-8 is not okay. And Rooney, like our owner saying like we hired this guy because we want to avoid a rebuild. Like, what a fucking tone deaf thing to say. And just like if that's seriously the direction we're going, like count me out. Sorry, Sam, I just went on. What do you agree or disagree from that?
No, so what I was going to say is I feel like I was worried about this because there was reports around this time last week that this could happen, and I did not think they were actually going to do it. And when it became official, I was pretty mad about it at first. Just my initial knee-jerk reaction was like, what are we doing? Here we go again. I think the 99% majority of people thought the same way, especially those outside of the Steeler fan base and organization.
Well,
But
better get their
started to
opinions
do a
right
little
here.
bit I started to do a little bit of digging and just like reading about Mike McCarthy and some of the things that he's done. Obviously, like Charlie touched on, he takes credit for developing Aaron Rodgers and worked with Brett Favre and Montana and all these guys in his career. I read another cool thing about arguably his finest work that no one ever talks about is a guy named Aaron Brooks. He was traded from the Packers to the Saints in 2000 and was their starter for 5 years. And in 2003, like obviously fourth round pick in the 2000s, like probably not a super talented quarterback. This guy was McCarthy's basically first project of a quarterback that he built from scratch. In 2003, McCarthy or Brooks had 3,500 passing yards, 20 touchdowns, and only 8 interceptions for the Saints, which is known by some people that are closer to him as one of his finest pieces of work. Um, so he has a track record
You're
of
not going to hear
developing.
the Aaron Brooks shout on the legacy media. I tell you that much.
Yes, so you're not going to like, yes, he is a quarterback whisperer. And I think that the Steelers have a very interesting opportunity here to leverage some of their pieces, as in TJ Watt and potentially guys like Jalen Ramsey and DK Metcalf, to teams that might be one position player away that might have a quarterback on a cheap deal that are willing to take on some of that salary. And then another thing I want to point out too, on the terms of the Cowboys, where a lot of people just think that he was bad and they were bad because it's the Cowboys, but he also had two really big coordinators with Kellen Moore and uh,
No,
Dan Quinn
oh yeah,
were
yeah,
his two coordinators that
yeah,
are
yeah.
very successful coaches now. Um, and
Dan Quinn,
I
he
also
was
want
actually
to
a
That
coach
was like a
too.
rehab job for Dan Quinn.
But still,
and
Kellen Moore
I
though,
want to
he gets a little.
I want to preface this from his Cowboy stint as well. So he had bat 3 in a row years of top five scoring offenses. In 2021, they were first in scoring. And in 2023, they were first in scoring as well. In 2022, they were fourth in scoring. But Cooper Rush was their starting quarterback for 5 games, and they still were successful in offense. So I think the interesting part of the Steelers' opportunity here with a guy like McCarthy, who's 62 years old, who most likely will not be their coach in 10 years. They have a cool opportunity to draft a quarterback and or get a quarterback and develop them on a relatively cheap deal with a offensive minded head coach who will be calling plays and kind of holding this quarterback's hand for the next 3 to 4 years, however that goes. And hopefully they will be able to hire a younger offensive coordinator who can then potentially get promoted to that head coaching spot and have an almost continuation plan of a seamless transition versus this coach just burning out. So while it is not the most inspiring hire to the casual eye, I think there's actually some things to be excited about here. And when you are in a position this year to probably draft a wide receiver in the first round and,
Lemon.
like Charlie was saying, be bad for a year or two and load up on draft picks, especially in this next draft with at the quarterback position, like there is a chance of a quicker rebuild here if things go right.
Did anything we say convince you a little bit, guys?
I think that this hire is not super inspiring, but it's also solid. I think Mike McCarthy is a little underrated at this point. If you look at his resume compared to all the other one Super Bowl win coaches that are currently head coaches in the NFL, like a John Harbaugh or a Sean Payton, if there's another one, it's not popping off the top of my head. He's got pretty similar record and proof of success and ability to implement a system into a team and have success. Like the Cowboys' offenses were very good under Mike McCarthy. They had a lot of misfortune in the playoffs in the years he was there. I think partially was bad. A lot of it was bad decisions made by Dak Prescott, the part of that falls on the head coach. But they were still in good positions and had really good teams under him while he was there. So I think the hiring is a little underrated, and I think the Steelers are putting themselves in a position to shift how they do things and shift towards a more offensive model, which could be good for them because they haven't had good quarterback play in a long time there, and that's the good quarterback play is the primary driver of NFL team success. So I think that they're in a good position. It all depends on, like you were saying, if they're bad this year. Because if they are, this is one of the best quarterback classes potentially of all time coming up in 2027. If the Steelers have a high draft pick that year, then they're in a good position to get their guy for the future. And I would trust him in the hands of Mike McCarthy. So it's good in that sense, but it's also they might not be bad if they don't fully commit to being bad. They could just
Yep.
be the same exact team because the offense is going to produce enough and they have enough pieces in place on defense that they could just do the same exact thing they've done the last however many years under Tomlin. So it like you're saying, it's all dependent on the direction the organization wants to go and if they're truly committed to getting a high draft pick and picking a QB.
All right, hit
I
me,
would
Arch.
also pose a
Uh,
question before Arch goes. Quick, no one even has to answer, but who do you trust more in developing a young quarterback? Would it be Mike McCarthy or a young, unproven head coach? So that's what I would think about too. Like you have a proven quarterback developer in McCarthy versus a coach that is not even called plays for his own team.
Arch,
That's a
hit
good
me.
point.
Well, yeah, I don't really know how to feel because it's like not a like Dusty said, it's not like it doesn't move me that much, but it also I think that sometimes that's good because in the NFL, like there's some teams that can make like horrible decisions, and I just don't. This decision was like a fine one. I don't think it was bad. I don't think it was like great. I also think it was perfectly on brand for the Steelers. But to me, yeah, I mean, if you are bad, all you have to do, like Chuck was talking about, is draft a bunch of Hall of Famers and you'll be good. But so we'll see if Omar Khan can do that. But what we are talking about with a young QB, I think that it would be really cool for the Steelers to try and get a guy, a Sam Darnold type player with McCarthy and see if he can do anything for the year. I don't know Aaron Rodgers' deal salary or like if he's still. I don't y'all so y'all can enlighten me. But I think I would really like to see y'all go out and get Will Levis and see if you can make something shake in this Steel
Oh, I
City.
saw that on Twitter, Arch. No, no,
He,
dude.
dude. Well, I mean, the problem is half of his clips are that 2023 game versus the Falcons, where they're
Mhm.
wearing the throwback Oilers jerseys.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he made some
So,
incredible throws. He's got a rubber
oh,
arm, but like I don't know if the intangibles
So did Zach Wilson.
That Sam Darnold. I mean, no, not. I mean, no, we didn't get gypped any more than the Zach Wilson back foot combine throw. I remember that throw. I was like going crazy on Twitter. Like, but
I
yeah,
think
Arch, I think Mac Jones would be a little bit more
that's true. I forgot about him. I
like
would
he's
actually love to
probably
see Mac
better.
Jones in a Falcons uniform. So
Yeah,
I
like
would
I think
take y'all can have Levis.
Mac Jones or Tua would probably be the two quarterbacks that you're like, give me a second chance. Now Tua,
Tua moves me a little.
I would do that below the
So I
Mason
said
Dixon
last week.
line. I think put him out west, a little bit closer to home. Because in throwing the ball in Pittsburgh when it's like rainy and snowy and cold, like that doesn't move me necessarily, but regular season Tua in like a nice fall day in Pittsburgh really moves me. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Does and does is it crazy? I mean, again, it is simple. Just fucking go draft Hall of Famers, but you got to get the draft picks in order to assemble the roster, you know? And we don't
No,
have.
yeah, I get that. I get
I
that
think you're
philosophy.
in a unique opportunity next year where you have a basically no the only we kind of said this about this year of like
Well, we need to
if this
lose.
if this Rodgers thing works, it works. If it doesn't, it won't. And we're just either going to be really good or really bad. And that didn't happen. But I think this year you also have a cool opportunity
Who said we
to.
were going to be really good?
I thought we could.
Sam.
There was a possibility that we could be
Dude,
really
there
good.
was no chance. We were staring 7 to 10 wins down the barrel of
Well,
a
I thought
gun.
we were going to be good.
Well,
Well,
I'm also
well,
not the one to listen to about this
yeah, come on,
audience.
dude. You
No,
convinced
I think they have a unique opportunity to take a chance on a quarterback with a no lose situation. Like,
yeah,
all right, here you go, Mac Jones.
here's
Here's the
20
keys.
yeah, here's 20
Do
million
whatever you
dollars.
want. If you're bad, great. Like,
Mason
perfect.
Rudolph.
y'all should do
That would
like
be
a
the worst
y'all
case
should
situation
What were you saying,
because you
Arch?
know what you're getting with him.
y'all should do a retread and try and help Jalen Hurts.
Well, well, the Eagles are going to trade 4 first rounders for Joe Burrow, so I'm sure Hurts will be on the market after that.
All right, hey, listen. It's so much fun talking about the Steelers. Always love it. No, we're gonna move on to the next team. This is the Buffalo Bills. They hired Joe Brady. And the pod nailed this, kind of sniffed this out. We knew Josh Allen was going to be heavily involved in the process. Like this was his guy, his offensive coordinator. He was also the offensive coordinator at
Panthers,
yeah, yeah,
LSU.
LSU with Joe
LSU.
Burrow. Um, I think it could definitely work out, but here's the two things that I just think like weird. Why in the press conference would you say the things you did if you were going to hire in-house Joe Brady? Like, walk with me here. Hold my hand for a second. So they didn't want like Terry Pagula in the presser was like, "Hey, I don't want to fire Sean McDermott, but when I got in the locker room, it was just so disheartening. Like I knew we had to make a change. Like we had just been through too many tough losses. So then you just hire the offensive coordinator that was also with you through the tough losses. Okay, that was just part one. Part two is the Keon Coleman thing, where like it wasn't Brandon Beane's fault; it was the staff's fault. When they drafted Keon Coleman, what staff member do you think had the biggest say in that room for drafting Keon Coleman? You think it was defensive head coach Sean McDermott? Or do you think Sean McDermott was probably like, oh, dude, Joe Brady really wants Keon Coleman. The play calling offensive coordinator really likes him. Like, like who do you think was responsible for that? Like, yeah. Like you get what I'm saying? Like why this just Terry Pagula just scares me in this scenario. Like how good is this Bills organization? Because the Terry Pagula also owns the Buffalo Sabres, if you guys didn't know. And the Buffalo Sabres are the worst franchise in the NHL. They're like the New York Jets of the NHL. They have 14 consecutive playoff 14-year consecutive playoff drought. They ran the best American hockey player in the world, Jack Eichel, out of the building. And the Jets, they're tied in North American sports for longest playoff droughts. So,
That's going to end this year, probably, though.
okay, I'm just saying.
I think a lot of potential issues have been masked by the success that Josh Allen's brought to the Bills. And I think Sean McDermott could have been a part of that. And the culture and system that he was able to implement in Buffalo. And then obviously you benefit a lot from having Josh Allen on your team. I think that might have covered up a lot of deficiencies that they have coming from the top in the organization, and then going down from there. What teams have the Bills had recently that inspire you, and you think that they're putting this quarterback that they have, it's probably the best quarterback talent wise, or if not the best, he's one or two. He's in the NFL, and what are you surrounding him with, and what have you done organizationally to put him in the best position to win a Super Bowl? I'm not saying that they haven't had the opportunities to win with Josh Allen, but I think that they've handicapped themselves with the moves they've made, and I think that a lot of that could have been sewn up and masked by a combination of Sean McDermott being there and Josh Allen. And I think Joe Brady, they'll be fine under him because they've proven that they can produce on offense with him there. But I don't know if he's going to be able to make the draft picks. And as long as you still have the same structure in place that you've had and you're just changing the head coach, then it's not that inspiring to me that Sean McDermott's out the door, because maybe he wasn't the biggest issue. He was just a symptom of a bigger cause that's failing the Bills. So I think that Joe Brady's a fine hire. They'll be fine, and they'll still be good and produce a lot on offense and be one of the best teams in the AFC. But it's not like there's institutional changes that are going to overhaul the Bills and put Josh Allen in a better position to succeed. So it's not this hiring is not that inspiring either. I think that structural change had to come maybe from like Pagula down to maybe moving on from who's running your front office right now and putting such fielding such poor teams for the Bills. So it's a fine hire, but I don't know if you're going to see a lot of change out of the organization.
Yeah, I kind of predicted. I think we all were like, yeah, I think this sounds like just like a Joe Brady promotion. I am. I don't. I kind of like tried to gauge the temperature of like the Bills fan base because I follow the Bills in a few accounts, and I was looking at like all their like social media, like fans, and people hate this hire. And I don't know if you've watched from like the Joe Brady times whenever he was hired in 2023 on. And also, you lost Diggs, so that obviously is going to play a role. But the vertical passing game of the Bills the last couple of seasons has been horrible, and partly it's because of Joe Brady's like play calling at times. They were running a lot of bubble screens, but also the fact they don't have any deep threat receivers, and they don't have the personnel to, so they're running bubble screens and slants to Khalil Shakir. So I'm going to be interested to see how this works with him. I think he's going to be able to call plays fine. I don't think he's going to be great at it because I think there was definitely some struggles. But also what Duska hit on, now that you're the head coach, you're not just calling plays. You are the leader of the team, which the team was already seemed pretty pissed off that McDermott got fired, which is going to be tough to get some of those guys like the Deion Dawkins, like their captains, back on board with Joe Brady. And also that means he's going to be the guy that's going to be determining who drafts. And like you said, Chuck, he's probably had a role in the Keon Coleman one. So you don't really know where. And I don't like this direction for the Bills. And like a senile owner will do like senile owner things and try and justify it to themselves. And I think that's happening here. And it only makes sense to him. But I mean, it's his money. So we'll see how how this turns out. But I think this was probably the most likely and predictable scenario for the Bills. So it's hard to like have any critiques, I guess, other than what we said.